Welcome to Susan's Enchanted Crossroads, a podcast that helps you navigate your journey through the crossroads. I'm Susie, and together we will be taking a deeper look into witchcraft and spirituality. So settle in, and let's get this episode going. Welcome back, gorgeous soul. How are you doing today? We have the summer solstice coming up, and I'm so excited. I love summer. I just adore it. I love basking in the sun. I love being off of work. Although COVID has changed everything. So sadly, my summers are cut short. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed summers. They've always been my jam. Going to the beaches, getting in the water, having fun, unwinding. When you get older, I guess things change. I still love summer. But now I can really lean into fall. I really can. And now that I've been traveling a bit and not to the same places, seeing the leaves change color, it's just a wow. And it's those little things, right? It's the little things that make you just pause and take some time to just look around and notice how nature just embodies life. And I know that might sound like silly or of course, but the way that I can now see the seasons change, which is difficult for me, right? Because I'm in the desert. It's like summer all the time. Or maybe you're the opposite and your climate is cold and it's cold all the time and you get snippets, right? You just get these snapshots of maybe spring and summer. And that's how I feel about fall and into winter. Now, don't get me wrong, it gets bitterly cold here, but to be around greenery and actually see the way the leaves are changing colors, you can feel just like the slightest little nip in the air. I don't know, it's really starting to grow on me. Anyways, we do have the summer solstice coming up, but I have something else that I wanted to share with you. And this little something was I've had this already. Like I'm not gonna like obviously I'm gonna tell you the truth. Not sugarcoating nothing. If you'd already know me, it's like I get real excited about a thing and then I want to do the thing all the time. It consumes me and I love it and I get immersed in it and I just want to do all the things and then I burn out. Because then it's like I'm just go with that and then everything else. So I have had a Patreon. I know you've never heard me say I've had a Patreon unless you've heard me on Ilana's podcast, where, and she and I are so aligned at times, but she was really like, fuck it, I'm gonna do my Patreon. I was like, you go do that Patreon. You get it, girl. Like, get that Patreon. And in the back of my head, I was like, man, my Patreon's just kind of sitting there. And the reason I did it was because that was everyone's thing. Like, get on Patreon. Patreon's a lot easier, to promote and to get, the people that you really want to connect with. And I was already doing, first of all, my job, right? Mundane job. But then I was also on Instagram and then TikTok and trying to boost. And then I had my newsletter. And at the time, I was struggling because I was just writing these massive emails and where I was still struggling with writing. And I was like, and then TikTok was getting banned, and then I got on Threads, and then Blue Sky, and I was like, I cannot handle anything else right now. Because at that time I was getting my certification to be Reiki level 3 master and going through classes. So I was like, how am I gonna have a Patreon and offer all these things? Because I was in my head, right? Like when you have a Patreon, you have to offer all the things. and different levels and different tiers. And I was like, there's no way. But I had created it. And once I created, I was like, all right, I'm done. No more. So it's just been sitting there. And just recently I went on there and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I I can control this. I'm in control. There's no Patreon president or king or queen out there saying it's got to be like this. Just like when I started my podcast, there was no one saying that I have to drop it every single Wednesday at this time, blah, blah, blah. Does it help? Of course, it helps, my listeners know when it's going to drop. If you're used to me dropping it like I do Wednesdays at 3 a.m., well, then cool. That way, when you wake up, rise and shine, or wherever you are in the world listening, you know it's going to be there. So then when I don't drop it, I'm always there to say, you know what? Ooh, just like this past week, right? I just was not, I was in such a liminal space. I was like in a little limbo, like, do I drop the episode that I was going to do, or do I address what's happening and how I'm feeling? And for some episodes, I plan way ahead because I already know me. And the whole thing of planning ahead and looking, and I'm still learning, right? Quarter one, quarter two, three, four. It really does help that I get things ahead. So before we dive in today's episode, I've got a little bonus brew to share with you. And this actually ties with our episode today. I was literally, I shit you not, drinking some tea. And this is how you know the universe really aligns. And I create my own tea blends whenever I can. So I create my own tea blend because I was getting ready. Um, trying to get ready and support myself for my cycle. I was trying to, I'm trying not to drink as much coffee. I love my hot cup of coffee, so it just is what it is. But I was, I'm trying to implement something else. And from start to finish, as I'm getting all my ingredients right, all of the herbs and teas I'm going to put into this bowl and mix it together with the intention that I have set, put it in a jar, have my honey ready and my mug and all of that good stuff. I get a text and it's one is from my bestie and then I got like an Instagram message, right? And I was like, one was from my bestie, one was from my sister, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got tea." And I was like, "You got tea. I literally got tea. Let's hear the tea." And, harmless chit chats here and there. And, we're laughing, we're having a good time. So I created a bonus episode. And these bonus episodes are going to be called Spirituality. I cannot help that I love to do this kind of thing. I love play on words. So this is going to be raw, real, soul stirring conversations. And they're going to be waiting for you exclusively on my Patreon. These are special bonuses, these are special episodes. I don't know if spirituality will be a major podcast the way this is, right? Where I put, I drop it every week. But this is a space where I sit down with incredible guests to spill the truth about spirituality, what it really looks like beyond those Pinterest aesthetics, beyond what you see on TikTok and Instagram. And it just stemmed from having these real conversations with my friends, real conversations. Um, when I see real posts on Reels or TikTok, right, where candle magic gone wrong, or learn my lesson with this, and that's the real stuff. So, If you're ready to go deeper, get a little messy with me, you can head on over to my Patreon and take a little sip, bestie. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, and I will see you there. I'm excited for it. And if you can only guess what we're going to talk about today, you guessed it. Yeah. We're going to be talking about tassography. Tassography. Just, oh my goodness. So, as I was talking about tea, making tea, creating my herbal blend, I was noticing that even before I would set intention, I felt like every time I sat down to create a blend, whether it was a tea for after dinner or a tea, my sleepy time tea, or a tea to help me prepare for my bleed, I really felt like I was sitting down and participating in a sacred act. And I feel like even like with coffee, but as like I don't go and harvest my own coffee grounds, you know what I mean, my own coffee beans. But as far as like intentionally grabbing these tea leaves and just these flowers like chamomile and rose and getting that green raspberry leaf and just seeing the colors and just really getting my hands into it as I mix it and then I separate into my jars. I really felt like it's this little ritual that I'm doing. And I feel like when in the act of preparing it and then drinking it is a ritual. It really is. And I really didn't start getting into teas until I was starting to do more of my spiritual practice, right? But I do want to do an episode on coffee. But growing up, it was coffee. It was everyone at my grandma's house, and it's the end of the night. We already had dinner. We're all playing, riding bikes, coming inside, and the adults are sitting around the table, and kids are welcome, drinking coffee and eating pan dulce, sharing stories, laughing. And it's that coming together. That's like a little ceremony right there. So, tassography or tasseomancy, I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying that today, is the act of divining the future or reading spirit messages. So, it's this beautiful teacup. I just always see beautiful teacups, but it's a teacup. And you interpret images and messages in the cup with a reader, right? So think of it as like a tarot reader, right? It's you and the reader. Um, and you are reading literally the tea leaves. So the tea leaf reading is basically scrying, right? And scrying is where you can look into a crystal ball, seriously, like a crystal ball, or into water or a mirror and you can begin to see images and messages start coming through. And it's beautiful. I remember I had attempted to try to do this, not without reading. Okay, I was just like, oh, I think I saw it online because it looks so aesthetically pleasing, and that could be part of spirituality, right? Because like I literally was like, oh, I'm gonna grab a cup. I'm gonna throw my tea leaves in there and let me see if I can read it. Could I? Oh, I was like, what? What am I looking at? I was like, girl, what you think you doing? I just, it honestly, it was not it. I was like, what am I looking at? What am I looking for? And that's why I preach to you all because, hello, I've done it. Yeah, do a little bit of research. Okay, just it only takes a little bit, honestly, because I went in there guns a-blazing, like, yeah, I'm gonna get this. I can't wait. And then I was like, oh, a little harder than I thought. So you probably even heard the phrase read the tea leaves, right? And that's basically a phrase borrowed from this divination practice, right? Because if you're reading the tea leaves, you're picking up like subtle clues, right? And that could be with experience, intuition. You're picking up, you're reading the tea leaves. And I just always, it's fascinating to me, all of this, because also people, this little sidebar, I've seen people even read coffee grounds, and that looks pretty intense. Now, that's amazing. I think so. So let's get into Tasseomancy, the art of reading tea leaves. So tea drinking can be traced obviously way back to China's middle and lower Shanghai dynasty. Okay. It was encountered with Europe in relatively recent stories. And with reading the tea leaves, I actually have seen people read coffee grounds, and that looks hella interesting too. And so the practice of tessography originally comes from Turkey because instead of reading tea leaves, they were reading coffee grounds. And it was just practice for hundreds of years because that was a special relationship between the person and their beverage. And that's what I go back to, right? It's that that connection we have with that beverage, whether it be the tea with your tea leaves or your coffee with your coffee ground beans. And it's only natural, right, that we begin now using this as a medium and a way to communicate and a way to connect. So, if you're really, really interested, I highly recommend reading the book called Teacup Reading and the Art of Fortune Telling by Tea Leaves. And it was written by Highland Seer in 1881. And it's really still considered a staple in the learning practice. I have not read it all the way through yet because this is something where, again, I'm like, is this going to be another thing that Susie does? So I'm very, very interested in it, but I'm gonna pump the brakes on that just a touch. But it's important to note that relationships were formed with tea and it began in China. Okay, and this is like thousands, 5,000 years ago. And obviously it's retold and it's become folklore and folk tale, but here's what we have so far. There lived a divine farmer named Shinnong, and Shinnong spent his days researching the plants and herbs of the region, as one does. The people of China were facing illness and famine, and he wanted to help them, as one does as a healer. As he was conducting his experiments, he happened to poison himself over 70 times. Okay? So, my man here be poisoning himself trying to help others, and you have literally the world at your fingertips. So please make sure that you're careful and you do research. Um, so luckily, before the poison could take hold and kill him, the wind blew a tea leaf into the cup of water he was drinking. The concoction healed him, and he would go on to bring knowledge of the magical and healing properties of tea to the people. Can you believe that? So these leaves were originally chewed or eaten for their benefits, and it wasn't until 1500 years ago that the leaves were actually brewed in hot water. So obviously, the creation of tea changed the landscape and ceremonial customs of China forever. and the use of tea quickly spread in surrounding areas as we know it today. And with this new passion for tea, right? Now we see it in Great Britain. And it's just dominates the market, right? You could find tea literally anywhere. It's a quick Google search. It's a quick Google search, and I mean there were trade wars, there was bloodshed over this tea, and honestly, when I look at myself making a cup of tea, knowing all of this, it just deepens that connection for me. And I feel like as a reader, right, of Tassaography, I bet you that sparks an even deeper connection because of the rich history, not just the folklore, but the literal history that we are taught. So, um, there are some other folklore that I had seen. And where are my notes, bestie? Maybe take this time to take a sip of water. Okay. Um, Amy Taylor is the founder of the Tasseomancy Museum in Hamilton, Canada, and has been reading tea leaves for over 30 years, and she has been teaching it for 20. And she states that no two tasseomancers work the same way, which honestly is pretty much could be said for anyone who does any type of divination. Um, I mean, there's ways to shuffle a tarot deck. Some people do it like they're playing cards. Other people just um pull the cards forward and back. Other people literally spread all the cards along the table and then gather them up. So there's just different ways to doing things. And here's a quote from Amy. Over 30 years ago, I looked into my family's tea bowls at a Chinese restaurant and was intrigued by what I saw. I went to occult shops, bought some good books, then sought out psychics who had a tea leaf reading as part of their repertoire. Got some tips, then began to create my own method. After all, no tea leaf reader is exactly like another. Isn't that freaking awesome? I thought that was amazing and very beautiful to point out because I have seen many, many different spiritualists, witches, warlocks, whatever you want to say, across the board, right? Whether I'm in their workshops, master classes, seeing their videos, um, and each of them does things just a tad bit different than maybe I would or a friend of mine would. And that's just beautiful to note because what do I tell you all the time, gorgeous soul? Not only are you the magic, but this is your practice. Okay, so when it comes to performing testography, and I'm going to read notes that I have gotten from Claire Goodchild and also Amy Taylor. So Amy uses Rubios, and she uses these because she states the leaves are small and don't expand a great deal in the water. When it comes to reading tea leaves, she invites us to cultivate our own imaginative capacities. And she says, quote, tradition for reading tea has established a generally accepted canon of symbols and their definitions, which have been duplicated in other divinatory modalities. I believe reading leaves is among the more imaginative and intuitive of the divinatory arts, and discovering the patterns and their deeper meanings in the bottom of the cup is much like seeing shapes revealed in cloud formations. Yes, absolutely, because when I see other people reading tea leaves or coffee grounds, I look at it and I'm like, wow, I never would have guessed that symbol. I never would have guessed that animal. But that looks exactly like what you're saying. But it's just like if you were to look up at the clouds or if you're reading wax or anything like that. Yeah, all of that could have different interpretations. And you're looking at this picture, the big picture, the little picture, especially of when you're connecting with the client or the seeker, right? Especially feeling that emotion. All right, so here we go. The first step in learning topography is choosing an appropriate teacup to read from. Remember that this isn't just a vessel for holding liquid, it is also a divinatory tool. Its selection should be part of the overall ritual. So, this I did know after my little, I thought I could just pick this up and do it. Um, but you do it, the size matters here, okay? So the size and shape does matter. And you do want to have like a coffee cup, a little teacup from what I have seen and what I have read, okay? If you don't do it this way, don't come at me. I'm just reading everybody else's ways of doing it, okay? So, like anything else, you do want to start by grounding yourself, clearing your space, whether that's with music, casting a circle, all those things I've talked about before. And if this is your first episode, hello, hello. You can go back to season 1 on how to ground shield and, you know, clear your and cleanse your area. So coming back to size and shape, because size matters. Um, the amount of liquid your teacup hold is up to you. Okay. You do need to make sure that the rim is wider than the bottom of the cup. Okay. That I did not know. So you do want a really wide top of the cup and the bottom should be smaller. Um, This is called the well. In order to have a clear view of the tea leaves from all sides and angles, okay? And you need to have a saucer. The saucer also needs to be wider than the cup. So what I'm thinking is get a traditional little cutesy teacup. And when I was doing research on this, they actually have very cutesy teacups that have the writings on the cup, like past, present, future, all that good stuff. So, just like they make tarot cards for beginners that have keywords on the cards, they have some cups like that for you too. So I thought that was cute. The inside of your cup shouldn't have any ridges or carvings, um, because you don't want it to, I guess, interfere with your reading. Color, I did see this. Different colors can enhance your mood, Ms. Goodchild says, and adding an interesting element to your reading, but it's best to begin with the plain white cup and saucer. If patterns and designs are featured, make sure that they're confined to the outside of the cup. If you do go with color, it should be light enough so that you can still see the tea leaves clearly, which I get, right? Because especially if I'm starting, I feel like if I have a lot, I might get a little overwhelmed, a little overstimulated. Okay. Accessories. Um, One often overlooked part of topography is use of a teaspoon. Not only do you need something to physically add tea to the cup, but it's considered bad luck to stir with anything other than a spoon. Because teaspoons are common collectibles, you will find a wide variety of them. This is a place where you can bring different energy to your reading by incorporating different designs and patterns. So, using a teaspoon with a heart on the handle can be reserved for love readings. A decorative travel spoon from Japan can connect you to your great grandfather who might live there. Those were her examples. So I was like, okay, interesting. Um, Other things I was reading, obviously, maybe you want a notebook or some paper on hand just so that you, or even like audio, voice your audio recorder, and really check with yourself on what this reading is for, right? So is it for love? Are you trying to connect with an ancestor? All that good stuff. And let your intuition guide you. Choosing tea, as I was reading, and I'm saying a lot, I'm sorry, because I'm going back and forth, if that caught your attention. Uh, Loose leaf tea leaves will remain after you drank the liquid. So it's important that you choose a high quality tea, but other people just say pick a tea that you enjoy because duh, you don't want to be sipping on tea that you think tastes like booty. No one likes that. That's where I'm just like, yeah, this has to be your own. If you don't like Rubio's, right, kind of tea, don't drink it. Like, girl, that might mess up your whole reading. However, it is said that bagged tea is not an option. Okay, so you got to cut the tea bag open and you got to pour the contents in your cup, right? But you have to be careful with those type of teas because they're like machine processed and they're like itsy bitsy and some of them are real powdery. I did that and I'm just like, what the fuck am I looking at? Not that you can't do it because obviously coffee ground beans, right? Coffee ground readings, you can do it. But if you're really looking for shape, you do want to look at maybe not cutting open maybe a tea bag unless you're ready for the powdery stuff to come out. You want to look at the size of the leaves because you don't want them too small unless you're really looking at, a really small picture, but then you don't want like super huge leaves that are gonna kind of like, I don't know, get in the way of the message because you can't really see. This is where you're gonna experiment with your size and texture. But just remember that when these tea leaves get wet, even though they look small, when they get wet, they're gonna expand. That's what she said. Oh, I couldn't help it. I have my friend in my head. I need to text her. Um, all right. So usually you people use green tea, oolong, black tea can be used, but again, you can experiment with different herbal mixtures as well. That's what I do. I do different herbal mixtures. So when I'm doing it, if I'm gonna actually sit down and read the tea leaves, that's how I'm going to do it. All right. So that's going to be completely up to you. This is where I'm going to leave you to do a little bit of research. Please, 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 please do research. I am not a doctor. We don't know how different herbs are going to react to your body, especially if you're not a tea drinker. So please, even though you're like, ooh, chamomile tea, mm, everyone drinks chamomile tea, but maybe you cannot, right? Or maybe you can't have mint tea, or, if you're pregnant, there's some things that you cannot ingest. So, just like anything else on this podcast, please discern, do your due diligence. Please be careful. But as you begin, okay, and this is where I'm reading my notes because obviously I'm like, I didn't know this. And I'm being so real with you. Okay. So as soon as you find your teas, your everything, this is what you're ready to do. You grounded, you centered. You're going to take a teaspoon of your loose leaf tea and you're going to put it in your cup and start to boil your water. Now, depending on the size of your teacup, is however much water you want to use. Okay. And here's another sidebar. You're not going to be adding anything else to your tea. So no honey or lemon or I've never had milk in my tea. Have you guys? I've never had milk or creamer in my tea, but so you're not going to have any of that. So with that note, your team is probably going to be a lot stronger. So please make sure that you go in knowing that. You're going to place the tea directly in the teapot. Hold on. I'm sorry. No. Okay. So nix that. We're good. Teaspoon of your loose leaf tea in the cup. You're going to start boiling the water, and then you're going to pour that boiled water over the top of the leaves. Okay. Now you do want to leave about a good amount of space. People were saying about an inch or so from the rim. Now the reading has started, okay? You've already begun. As the reading starts and you've already poured, you want to kind of look at how the tea is acting up in the cup, how it's doing its thing in the cup. Is it floating? Is it clumpy? Is it sinking? Is it bubbling? You want to know all of the ways that the tea is reacting as far as the reading. Yeah, that sets the mood. So if you're a tarot reader and before you get all the, question out and a card flies out, that's usually your signifier card, right? So that sets the energy and the mood for the reading. So then from there, you want to gently stir your tea while thinking of the question or the situation or whatever it is that you're going to be doing this reading about. Okay. If this is for you, you're holding it, right? If you're doing this for others, usually the person that's asking the question usually holds the cup and stirs. That way it has that person's energy. Okay. Okay. So while you're waiting for your tea to cool down, please don't drink boiling hot liquid unless you're my husband. I'm always in awe on how fast he drinks boiling hot fucking tea. Uh, but make sure it's cool enough to drink. You don't want to burn yourself. You can start divining and interpreting what you see, right? So, like I said, the bubbles, is the tea already, when it's floating or sinking, do you see, I don't know, messages, or do you see symbols? Okay, so as you're turning, you're saying you're already locked in. Okay, you're locked in. Okay. From here, when your tea has cooled to a point that you can drink it, you're going to start sipping your tea. So this is mindful sipping. This is connectful sipping. Now, this person says to use your non-dominant hand to hold the cup. Your non-dominant hand is considered to be your intuitive hand, and using it is believed to trigger the subconscious. It's strongly advised that you think of your question during this time or have it in mind. Some people even repeat it over and over and over in their head while they are sipping. Okay, so awesome sauce. Now, when there's about a teaspoon of liquid left at the bottom of the cup, you're going to swirl it 3 times before flipping it face down onto the saucer. Okay. You do need to do this kind of fast. So I I kind of made a mess. So maybe have some paper towels or a towel around like the saucer because it's gonna kind of splash around. Or I don't know, maybe it was just me, but it might happen. Okay. By this time, it shouldn't be hot. It's pretty much cooled down, but this helps catches the liquid anyway. This is okay. No, those are my notes. Don't make a mess. All right. Next, you want to either tap 3 times on the bottom of your overturned cup or rest your dominant hand on it for a second or two while thinking of your question. Some people also recommend spinning the cup 3 times to disperse the leaves. I just tapped it. I just, I don't know, and that was it. And you know what? Honestly, I don't even think I was thinking. I was so into the moment. I didn't even think I was thinking of my question. I just wanted to fucking do it. Like a kid. I just want to do it. Um, all right. So when you feel ready, you turn the cup's handle so it's positioned at 6 o'clock and flip over the cup and then you look inside it. So when you first look, you probably won't see anything. Unless you're me, I didn't see shit. I just saw globs of tea leaves. Um, but you need to sit there with it for a while, and little by little, the pictures will start to form. Now, as nothing came to me, okay, like zero, nada, zilch, no symbols. I honestly, I was like, okay, so nothing. Maybe that's a dog. I don't know. It's practice, practice, practice. It's like I tell my Reiki clients, right? When we're in a Reiki session, if nothing comes through, it's okay. But, you feel a certain way, like, why am I not seeing it? Why do I not feel anything? But I was so more into doing it than like just doing it for doing its sake than I was really for reading the tea leaves. But honestly, don't get discouraged. Okay. It takes time. Also look at it from different angles. So I would even honestly step away from it, come back and maybe relaxing the gaze. I even read that someone said that squinting helps them. So I was like, oh, I didn't try the squinting. I can try next time. But through the tea leaves, you're supposed to read, and the cup is supposed to be natural. It's supposed to be like second nature to you. When you start to see these images and patterns in the leaves, you want to note them down. So whether you're writing them or leaving yourself a voice note, because you want to not only know, oh, I saw a dog, I saw a ladder, I see a dragon. You want to know where they are in the cup because where they are in the cup actually matters. So there's like the bottom of the cup. I think that's let me look at my notes. What do you mean? I think it's the whole point of you listening, right? Okay. In the standard reading, the bottom of the cup represents the distant future. This usually means a few months, but could also mean years. Okay. In a spirit reading, the bottom of the cup can represent someone who has passed a long time ago. So I was okay. Middle of the cup is your standard reading. The middle of the cup along the sides represents near future, generally means a few days to weeks. In a spiritual reading, the middle of the cup can represent someone who has passed 6 to 19 years prior. Bottom of the cup is 20 years or more. That's cool. The top of the cup in a standard reading is near the rim. So this represents immediate future, most likely within the next 24 to 48 hours. In the spirit reading, the top of the cup can represent a recent death, usually within the last 5 years. The top of the cup can also represent situations that are very important to you or could signify life-changing events. The handle, this is where I was like super into it. The handle represents your connection to the unconscious mind and the spirit realm. So images near the handle represents our direct environment, and images from across the handle can represent outside influences. So isn't that fucking cool? So when working with family spirits, the handle can represent our immediate ancestors, and the farther the leaves are from that point are further back the family line of your ancestors and your spirits. So there are a bunch of things that I'm gonna let you look up, okay? Like um what what happens if you see a rose or um if you don't see anything right away, obviously don't get discouraged. But if you were to see all these images, what do they mean? What does a dog mean? What does a cloud mean? This looks like a person. What does it mean? There's just like they have dream books. I would highly, highly recommend that because this episode's already getting a little long in the tooth because I don't know a lot of this. So a lot of it was notes and reading up on people that this is their jam. So again, it's just like when you're reading anything else in divination, uh, tarot, your oracle cards, your bones, and when you if you throw bones, anything. If you see something like an owl or a feather, for some people, owls are a bad omen, but for others, it's their deity coming through, or it's knowledge, or something exciting is coming in. And like I said, noting where it is in your cup is also very important. And it also depends on the questions that you are asking. It's very important to be very clear on that. So, this whole episode is don't be like Susie. Don't just do it for, doing it for doing its sake, right? Or if you are, awesome. Like if you got tea leaves right now and you're like, I got tea leaves, I got a saucer and a cup, I got time, cool, go do it. I had tea leaves. I didn't have a saucer or a regular cup. I just was throwing it in a freaking mug, bro. And I was just wanting to do the process instead of really sitting down and like, okay, this is the process. So, with that, if you are a tea leaf reader, if this is your jam, I want to hear from you. I would love to have you as a guest either on Susie's Enchanted Crossroads and or spirituality because I would love to hear. I mean, I'm sure you've got stories out there, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that's just like totally lost. But I would love to hear from you. I'd love to connect, and I know my listeners would also as well. All right. Well, that's it for me, gorgeous souls. Remember to hit up all the links in the show notes. I want to hear from you and go check out my Patreon. Like just just take a little look-see in there. I would love to have you in. Um, I think it's going to be a good time over there. All right, until next time, I will see you at the crossroads. Thank you for listening to this episode of Susie's Enchanted Crossroads. I'd love to hear what resonated with you, so don't be shy. Tap the links in the show notes to send a message or share your thoughts. Make sure you leave a review because your voice helps this community grow and guides others to find this podcast and their magic. Want even more enchantment between episodes? Sign up for my weekly newsletter for rituals, energy tips, and exclusive updates. And don't forget to follow me on my socials on Instagram and TikTok for your daily doses of magic, silliness, and behind the scene moments. If you felt a little magic today, share this episode with a friend who might need it. And until next time, I will see you at the crossroads.